Hey guys, how's it going? In this video, I want to detail a few things for you while you're building your entertainment campaigns and go over a couple different techniques that I think will be very helpful for you. So what I have here is I've got some base imagery of what I want to use, and what I'm doing for my entertainment campaign for my idea is I'm going to go ahead and uh, remake the movie Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. Fun little movie. It's an old movie from the 60s, and they remade it again, I want to say, in the mid 90s, about a couple dogs and a cat that are trying to get home, right? And so what I have here is I've just got this field of wildflowers, and then I also have this, picture of this Labrador here. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to bring the two of them together, and I want to make a character poster, and we'll call this character Jack. Okay, so I want to create that for Homeward Bound here, and then I want to talk about titles and stuff like that, and essentially create my one sheet with a combination of a few images. So first things first, let's go ahead and make a new document. So I'm going to call this my tag. So NFP 252. I'm going to call it one sheet, and I have my sizes already figured out. So I want a 27-inch wide document by a 40-inch tall document with a resolution of 300 pixels per inch, RGB color mode, and I want my color profile to be Adobe RGB. Okay, and I'm going to say okay to that. Now, just to get a sense of how big this is, let's go to image and image size. So if you're good at math, which some of you may be, right? If you have the inches here and we take 27 inches and multiply that by 300, you're going to get 8100 pixels. If you take 40 inches and multiply that by 300, that's how you get the 12,000 pixels. So that's how big this is, okay? Just for you to kind of get that sense. Now, over here, my background image here, I've got some problems, okay? For starters, it's 4982 wide. The other one was, 81 wide, 8100 wide, and the height is nowhere near where it needs to be. So that's 3264 high, and that was 12,000 wide. So big difference. Plus, my resolution is completely different too. So I have a lot to work with here, essentially, to make this thing work. And I'm going to show you a few techniques. So here's our first technique. I want to resize this, right? And there's a few ways to resize, and in the past I've talked about this resample thing a little bit, and I've kind of said like, no, we don't want to do that, and in the beginning we don't, so I'm going to uncheck that for a second. And what that's going to do is essentially that's going to link up your width, your height, and your resolution. So I'm just going to change this to the same resolution as everything else, which is 300. So notice that changes this to 16 inches by 10 inches, right? And then here's our dimensions here. So I'm just going to say okay to that. And nothing changes here. This doesn't get bigger, this doesn't get smaller, nothing changes at all. So now I'm going to go to image and image size yet again. And this time I actually want to make it bigger. So I'm going to click resample. Now, if you've taken Graphics 1, which you all have, whether it was with me or someone else, hopefully you learned that what you can do in Photoshop is you can essentially double the size of an object without it causing, well, too much kind of degradation. We don't have that opportunity here, right? These things are 40 inches tall, and this thing's only 10 inches tall. So we got some stuff we got to work with here to really make this work. Now, in a perfect world, this is my photograph that I've taken, and I have not taken it landscape. Instead, I've taken it portrait. So then I've got a lot more headroom to work with. So in a perfect world, I'm not doing this, but I want to show you how we can make this happen and how we can make this work still. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I want to make this larger. What's going to happen is I'm going to gain pixels when I do that. And when I go ahead and I gain pixels, they really kind of grow from thin air. So I have to sort of just be cognizant of that and aware of that. So if I go ahead and I say, let's say that I want to make this 2.5 times larger. So if I wanted to make this 25, for example, this is what that flower is going to look like at 100%. And I'm really glad that actually came in here. That's kind of okay for a couple of reasons. It's not our focal point. It's our background. If I'm going to go ahead and I'm really going to blow something up, I think this is going to be all right. Now, what we have here, these are all the different formulas in which Photoshop goes ahead and it uses to make things larger or smaller or whatever, right? A lot of times it's stuck on automatic. Mine was already where I wanted it to be, which is this bicubic smoother, and that's really for enlargement purposes. But there's also bicubic sharper, which is really meant for reduction, but I've seen people use it for enlargement as well. I've seen this preserve details work as well. My recommendation to you is every image is a little different. Go ahead and try this. Try some different, basically algorithms here. I like smoother. It tends to work really well for what I do a lot of times. So that's usually my go-to. But I do check the other ones out as well. And it's as simple as just checking on it and then going ahead and hitting OK. And sometimes like that one there, the preserve details, you have the opportunity to actually go ahead and get a little slider there to reduce noise. So that's pretty cool. In fact, let's take a look at that just so you can get a sense. This will just give you a little preview. If you go ahead and you increase or decrease the reduced noise, that really did take a lot of the noise away that's in that photo. Actually, I think we might use this one because I think that's going to work better for our photo. So let's do that and reduce the noise. I don't think we need to go all the way to 100%. 50% probably could do it for us. So I'm going to say OK to this. And it's going to get bigger, which is what it's supposed to do. Now, while this is doing its thing, I kind of just want to talk for a minute about what this image is. This is a field with some flowers, and it's kind of got a grayish, whitish background to it. I kind of picked it on purpose. I thought that it would be a nice image for my movie, for my Homeward Bound movie. And along with that, I also thought that, it had enough detail to it to make it look interesting, but I could also do a couple other things with it, and you're going to see that right now. So I'm going to grab this thing, and I'm going to bring it right over to the one sheet and just drop it on here. Now, it's going to talk to me about my color profiles here. I'm going to OK this because I've gone ahead and I've changed my color profile from sRGB to Adobe RGB. I always want to work in Adobe. Okay, so here I am. If I go ahead and I do a Command T, well, we can see that we got some stuff not being used on the edges here, right? And then we can also see that we got a big area here of white. So we got to fill that in somehow. So let's go ahead and start there. And you know what? I'm going to save and save often with this project because it's going to be a large format document. So, and I don't want it to be a Photoshop PDF. I'm going to go ahead and put it on my desktop in a new folder called Art 252 Campaign. Create that. And yes, I want layers. And yes, I want to embed my color profile. So I'll say save to that and say OK. Again, this is going to be a big file, so no working off of flash drives, okay? You definitely want to work off of a computer for sure. I'm working off a 13-inch MacBook Pro right now. Complete honesty with you, it's sucking the battery faster than I would like it to, and the fan is already kicked on. So make sure when you're working on large format documents, you go ahead and you restart your computer every so often and rebuild your RAM. It's going to be your, definitely something you want to do. So what I want to do is I want to scale this thing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do Command T, and I'm going to drag this up here, and I'm going to drag this up here, or down there. And if I said OK to that, and we looked at that, I think that somebody, one of you, would go, that doesn't look right. And I definitely would say, that doesn't look right either. So what doesn't look right? Let's start there. How about this background? Does that look okay? Yeah, it does. You know why? It's kind of just like a grayish, cloudy background. How about this kind of we'll call it these kind of weeds. Do they look okay? Yeah, they kind of do. They look fine. How about the flowers? They are the things that look weird. All right, so we've established that. Okay, so I want to teach you how to do this thing we call content aware scale. So if I go ahead and I go to edit and transform, I can scale. But there's also this thing here called content aware scale. But before I can use it, what I need to do is I need to decide what I don't want to be scaled. And what I know is I don't want those flowers to be scaled. So I'm going to make a selection around that. And it's going to be a very loose selection. Okay? So that ought to do it. That right there. Cool. So now I have this selection made. I want to save it. So I'm going to say select and save selection. And I want to give this a name. So this is a technique we've used in the past. Again, if you took Graphics 1, you did this. You might have played around with it in previous projects as well in some other classes. So anyway, I'm going to call this flowers. I'm going to save my selection. And I'm going to save it as a new channel and just say OK. And I'm going to say select and deselect. Don't need that there anymore. Now watch, I'm going to go to edit, and instead of transform and scale, I'm just going to go to content aware scale. And it gives me a bounding box just like the other thing, and I could go ahead and I could drag just like the other thing, right? And here's the fun part. I can select this thing here that says protection. So I'm going to protect my flowers. So what that means is there's going to be an invisible box where that flowers channel lives. And watch, I'm going to drag this up, and it's only moving that cloudy background. Those flowers are not getting touched whatsoever, which is pretty cool. And let's scale out a little bit. Now let's pull down. There we go. That didn't do quite what I wanted it to do. So let's undo that really quick. Let's go back to our selection. Select, load selection, and load up our flowers. And let's see. So okay, so that's there, right? We're going to try that one more time. We're going to do it a little bit looser though. So I really want to stretch that green if I can. In some photos, just straight up won't allow us to, but we're going to try it again. So we're going to say select and save selection one more time. I'll call it flowers, and I'm going to say replace the channel. All right. So now let's go back to edit, content aware scale. We have flowers selected. Okay. Oh, I should have taken my... I needed to unselect before I did that, so let's try this one more time. Edit and content aware scale. Let's select flowers, and now let's grab this part. There we go. That green is stretching a little bit. Okay. I'm going to pull that green down a lot. It's moving a little bit, but what's really moving, though, is this. And as long as I don't go too far, I won't get it too much of a crazy stretch. Can I go in more? I can. And the flowers stay protected as best as they can, but it gets a little funky and a little weird. So you know what? I don't need to do that. I'm not going to do that. What I really need, though, is I needed to go ahead and I needed this background here. And I needed to give myself a little bit more height. I think what I'm going to do as well, is because I want it, I won't lie to you, I wanted a little bit more of this grass. I'm going to cheat a little bit. And it's going to look weird at first. I promise it will look better after I do some stuff to it. But at first it's going to look a little weird. But just stay with me here, and I think you'll see where I'm getting to with this. I'm going to move this up, just like that, okay? Kind of where I want it. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to call this my flowers BG. I'm going to duplicate it. That's a Command or a Control J on a PC. I'm going to take that one in the back and just bring it down. Okay? Right about there. Take my top one, put it, oops, right about there. Now, what you see is this kind of like line here and this repetitive kindness, and that's kind of annoying, but it's okay. It's gonna work out. Um, what I'm gonna do is this one on the bottom, and I have somehow copied another one. Let's try this one more time. There we are. I'm going to take this one on the bottom. I'm going to kind of move it a little bit. I'm going to shift it so things kind of line up a little bit better. And then I'm going to take this top one. I'm going to throw a mask on here. And I'm just going to take a soft edge brush, make it black. Maybe go ahead and like make it like 75% or something like that. And all I'm trying to do, guys, is just do a little blend. Nothing crazy. And look at that, right? That is what we call cheating in Photoshop. And then I can move this one in the background around a little bit more. And I can even like mess with it even more. Check this out, watch. Edit, transform, and flip horizontal. And look at that. If you didn't know that that wasn't the same, that I did that, you just wouldn't know. There's, it's a wonderful trick, right? And at the end of the day, if you're like, man, that's crazy, right? He's tricking us. You know what? It doesn't matter because I'm gonna hide a lot of this anyway. Okay, so just trust me on that. So we're gonna come back to this. So I'm gonna select both of these things. I'm gonna do a good old Command G, and I'm gonna call this background. And there we have our background in here. So file save. Now, just to get a sense of size, let's go to our desktop. Let's go to my 252 campaign and Command I. 387 megabytes. Okay, so that's cool. I want to keep an eye on that size. So what I'm going to do now is come over here and I'm going to take my dog, Jack, right? Now, what I've done already is I've made a selection of Jack. It's already been done, but I want to walk you through how I did it. It was a really quick process, so it was a really easy process too. I took the quick selection tool. What the quick selection tool is essentially is it's basically like the magic wand that you can move around. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab Jack to the best of my ability with the quick selection tool. And you'll notice there's a few things that I missed, like here on the back of his neck. So I'm actually going to take just the regular wand tool and I'm going to add that in. So I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to just go ahead and freehand that right in there. Now, this is one of those things that this is real life, okay? This is a light colored dog on a light colored background. And as an artist, we make choices sometimes. And we live by those choices. So what I mean by that essentially is that, we may choose that right here is where Jack's neck ends. And that's going to be okay. So I'm going to hold the Option or Alt key on the PC to go ahead and make a subtraction on my selection. And there I go. The same tool I'm using here for him can be used for people, for cars, for other animals, for pieces of fruit, for absolutely everything. Okay, so again, what I did a quick selection to start with, and now I'm just using the oops, no, don't crop. I lost my selection. There it is. I hit the C key and I accidentally tried to crop it. Didn't mean to do that. But yeah, so I'm doing a quick selection and then I'm going back into it with the lasso tool. That's my workflow. Your workflow can be similar or it can be different. It's totally 100% up to you. So I like to do that myself. But again, other people, do different things. Different strokes for different folks. And that's quite all right. The beauty of Photoshop is that we all can get great looking images in the end, and we can come about them at 100 different ways. Every couple of years I go to this thing called Photoshop World, which is a conference, and you'll go to one session and they will tell you why the magic wand is the greatest tool in the world. And you'll go to another session and they'll tell you why, nope, it's the quick selection tool. And another session will tell you it's channel masks. And you know what? It's whatever works best for you. And it's a combination of all of them at the same time. So after I've got this base selection done, I'm going to go to this thing here called Select and Mask. And Select and Mask gives us a bunch of options up here. First off, it gives us a view mode. And we can look at this thing on like overlay or black or white, right? And whenever you do that, you have an opacity here. So you can turn it up or turn it down. I'm going to put it on overlay just so it's on this bright red background so you could really see it. All right. Normally, I wouldn't do this. But I'm doing this just so you can kind of see what's going on. Now, there's this thing here called edge detection. And I can turn on this thing called Smart Radius. And what that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and you'll see what it did right around here is it gave me a bunch of little bumps on Jack's head because he's got fur. It's not hard edge. It's kind of soft, right? And Jack is he is a short-haired dog, so his fur sits really flat on him. So it's a lot easier to work with him than like let's say a puffy-haired dog, like a poodle or something like that. But still, he's got fur. So when we just do that auto smart radius, it detects that, well, there's some background in that fur that's not quite right. So we can then go ahead and we can play around with this tool and we can drag it forward or backwards, okay? And we can basically change what that radius is. The smart radius is essentially Photoshop's AI figuring it out for you. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. Usually it's a decent place to start. And that's kind of usually where I leave it. That, like, great. It's a great place for us to start. What it did actually is it cut out like some white stuff here I grabbed by accident. So it does an okay job. Like, so that's okay. There are some other tools here. The one you really want to know about is this Refine Edge brush tool. And this is where you'll be able to paint in more edges if you find them, okay? So that will allow you to do that. It takes a little bit of practice, so by all means, play around with it a little bit before you just start jumping in and trying to get your project done in a half an hour or something like that. Experiment. But what I tend to do too is I tend to go ahead and I play around with these little sliders here. So this is one that I like to work with smooth. And then I like to work with contrast, which is kind of like the opposite of smooth. But at the same time, it really gives me a nice kind of edge. And then I sometimes play around with feather. And feather is going to soften things for us, right? And it's a dog. I want it to be soft. So I want to soften it. And I think that edge detection just was too much. So I'm going to pull it down a little bit too. And there, that's starting to feel kind of more what I'm expecting to have. I'll add a little bit of feather on there. Know this, that when you're working with larger files, that what's going to happen is you're going to want to go ahead and just give this a couple minutes because it's going to take a little time. Now, I noticed something right now. There's this weird little bump right around here. See this? That doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to take my lasso tool here, okay, because I like using that one. I'm going to hold down the Alt key on a PC, the Option key on a Mac, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to freehand this line in here and say, I don't want that, and it takes it right away, okay? And in the same token, I can come over here and I can clean things up like that as well. This is a great tool, and it allows for us to go ahead and kind of make refinements to our selections on the fly, which is nice. Now, this other thing that I love to do when I'm making selections is this thing called shift edge. So basically what this does is it can contract or expand the selection edge. So I like to contract it a little bit. Not a ton, but just enough. It just kind of like sucks it in a little bit, right? And for me, I think what it does is it essentially kind of makes things just kind of feel a little bit better. Now, there's a little something that I just noticed. See his tongue? It's kind of getting cut off. So I'm going to come on up here to my view mode again, and I'm going to bring my opacity, my red mask here down quite a bit so I can see. And go, is it really getting cut off? And I kind of think it is. So I'm going to just go ahead and just to make sure, I'm going to draw it right on in there. Again, free-handed in there. I'm going to do it twice. Because you know what? If I go over the same thing twice, it's not a big deal. I'm going to jack this thing back up. Still looks a little flat. And I could have just been seeing things. Maybe that was it. Pop my feather up just a little bit more. Again, because he's a dog. He's got fur. He should be soft. I want that. I got to be careful, though, with feather. Because before I know it, I could turn it into this. And I don't want that. Okay? I want it to feel a little soft. But at the same time, I want it to have a nice smooth edge. So I dig that. Now, when you output, you can output to a selection, to a mask, to a new layer, all sorts of stuff. I like to output to selections myself because now it gives me the ability. If I feel like it, I could turn this into a mask. If I feel like this, I could pop this to a new layer. I could do a whole bunch of different things to it. And I'm going to go ahead and do a Command J and pop it to a new layer. And now there is my selection of Jack. Now, let's take Jack and bring him over to the one sheet. Oh my gosh, he's little. Okay? Well, while that's kind of like to scale, actually, that's not what I want. I need a big Jack. So let's come back over here. Okay? And let's go ahead and let's make him bigger. So same technique we did before, image size. Again, this is something that I grabbed off the internet. So from unsplash.com. And here's the thing, so that's why it was 72. So I went ahead and I changed it to 300 without resampling. Now I'm going to make Jack bigger. Okay, how big? I want to double him. So I'm going to say my height, I want to be 25. But I want to resample. Oops. Resample. My height, I want it to be 25. Now here's that ear. This is what it looks like with a lot of noise. This is what it looks like when we take the noise away. Now, this is something that we need to talk about because, well, it looks like my computer will go to sleep unless I plug it in. If I leave the noise there, it's really kind of, like, it's really noisy. It's going to be kind of pixely. If I take it away, it gets super soft and almost like painterly. So I got to find this happy kind of medium. So I'm going to pick like 20% or so. And then it is going to get soft. It's just going to be soft. Maybe 25%. But that's okay because I'm going to go ahead and sharpen it when I get him over into the other part. So I'm going to say okay to this. And this is going to go ahead and it's going to do the image size just like last time. And when we come back in the next video, I'm going to bring Jack over into the one sheet, and I'm going to size him up there appropriately as well. So, yeah, and this whole image size thing will be completely done when you come back. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.